It's great to be here with everyone, and it's great to see so many people here at the Theology of Gift Conference. I was asked to speak on golden questions, kind of asking our way to the gift, and certainly that's one aspect of what we do, but hopefully you've taken this week and what you've learned this week and really soaked in and absorbed it and hopefully take it to heart in terms of your mission and your ministry, and especially in the ministry development. And I feel terrible because I've missed most of the talks, well, actually all the talks this week, and the talk I would have been most motivated and inspired to hear was actually Mark Bartek's, because really bringing our benefactors on mission with us is what we're about, and helping them draw in their relationship with Jesus Christ. But as a part of today, I want a show of hands. We can do this classroom style, but we have a volunteer who's a really good man who I met a year ago at this conference, that he volunteered if we do a little role play in terms of golden questions. So I'd love to see a show of hands if you prefer classroom style, or if you'd actually like to see me execute the golden questions with an actual prospective benefactor. Just give me a show of hands. All right, classroom style it is. All right. So show of hands if you want Chuck and I to sit down and go through the golden questions. All right. So I'm gonna run through my presentation pretty quickly. So then that way we'll probably spend about 15 minutes doing a little role play as we get going here with Chuck. So in my current role as the Vice President of Philanthropy for the Focus Mission Foundation, I have the incredible privilege to work with some great men and women of great faith, influence, and affluence. And working within the Catholic Church, first of all, can I get is this not a great day to be a Catholic? Give me an amen. Oh, come on. We sound like a bunch of Protestants. Is this a great day to be Catholic? All right, much better. That's what I like to hear. We got to wake up. So it is a great day to be Catholic. And I've had the opportunity, as Peter mentioned, to work for the church for the last 30 years. And I've met some of the greatest people in the world. And that's an opportunity we have as Catholic development professionals, as I like to refer to ourselves as missionaries, Catholic development missionaries. So this is Jim and Judy Barrett. Jim passed away on March 14th, 2013. And I met him in May of 2010. And they were sending us about $2,500 a quarter. And nobody within the organization really had the opportunity to meet with him face to face. So one of my colleagues and I, John, we went and saw Jim. And for the first visit, and even though they were supporting Focus. And so I start to go through the golden questions. So, what are your top philanthropic priorities? And, what's important to you? And he responded with vocations, Catholic education, supporting organizations in third world countries, and the youth in the church. So he's dovetailing nicely in terms of trying to match his interests and their support with our support. And so I went through a series of these questions, and then I get to the point, I said, well, Jim, how much do you try to give away annually? And he stops. He says, listen, boo-boo, of Yogi Bear and Boo-Boo. I have my A priorities, I've got my B priorities, I've got my C priorities, and I've got my D priorities. Now, I've got good news, and I've got bad news for you. The good news is you're on the list. The bad news is you're a D priority. So I took that, because I always feel that the first gift is the most important gift that we get from any benefactor, because then we have an opportunity to steward the relationship with them, and hopefully they can grow in their appreciation for our work, and hopefully grow closer to us as an apostolate. So fast forward to Columbus Day of 2012, about a little bit over 2 years later, Jim says, we need to get focused to California. We weren't in California yet, and now California happens to be our second largest state in terms of number of campuses, Texas being largest state in terms of campuses. So we need to get focused to California. He said, I pledge, which he goes, and John, I do not pledge. I pledge $100,000 to get focused to California. So we took that as a challenge. And we were fortunate that we had some interest from some great chaplains at Berkeley and UC Santa Barbara and University of Southern California that agreed to bring focus to California. But we went back again in February, and Jim turns around while we were sitting at the conference table, and Jim looks at me and he says, John, I just want you to know your NRA priorities. So he went from D to A in a little bit over 2 years. So that was in February of 2013. And I told you he passed away on March 14th of 2013, about 6 weeks later. So couple of lessons from that. Number one, in the very first meeting, when we went to go see Jim was not the reason they were supporting Focus. It was Judy, the spouse. The reason they were supporting Focus, and as as development professionals, and especially male development professionals, we tend to be very male-centric, focusing on the man. And that's not always the case. If you're talking to John and Lucy Flynn, you better be talking to Lucy Flynn because she's the one making the decisions. I'm an easy target. Lucy's the tough one. But the important thing following that very first meeting with Jim and Judy is we quickly engaged Judy as a part of the process. And she was really kind of leading the charge in many ways. So they were in the process of putting Focus or making Focus an A priority, but financially, Focus was not an A priority yet. And then he passes away. Well, again, a quick lesson, because Judy was actively engaged in a part of that decision-making process, after Jim passed away, she made it to where Focus was an A priority as a part of their estate plan. So again, getting back to those golden questions, it's important that we have the opportunity to drive at what's motivating our benefactor. I always try to coach development professionals. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Try to use them in that proportion. So just to kind of recap, and I'm sure you guys have covered some of this week, but there's really 4 types of visits that we try to track in my 30 years. We have discovery visits where it's kind of a first-time visit. You're getting to meet the benefactor or the prospect for the very first time. Cultivation, where you try to get them engaged. You can do some more fact-finding. This is a very important part of the solicitation process. I always encourage our officers to be prepared to solicit a gift on the very first meeting if the opportunity is right, because that can be a part of the cultivation process as what's a meaningful gift for someone. It might be $2,500, it might be $5,000, it might be $10,000, it might be $100,000, but that can be a part of the cultivation process as you're engaging them. But this is a good opportunity to find out when you're trying to get to that optimal gift or on the way to the optimal gift, to use that cultivation visit as a part of the solicitation process. Then obviously solicitation and then stewardship. And I cannot emphasize enough the importance of stewardship, because stewardship is extremely important in terms of making sure that we steward that benefactor well. We report back on the impact that we're having as an apostolate and how we can continue to engage them in a meaningful and significant way. A lot of organizations, the worst development programs will treat benefactors as ATMs. And I hate it when people treat a benefactor as an ATM, because hopefully they're on mission with us as an apostolate. Okay, role of research in philanthropy. So there's basically 6 reasons people will not make a gift. Number 1, wrong organization. Number 2, wrong project. Number 3, you're asking for the wrong amount at the wrong time with the wrong person asking, or they're not ever being asked themselves. And there's many times, there's there's a former development director that was involved in a very prominent Catholic campus ministry, and he told me one time, he goes, "Yeah, I had 11 visits, and I got 11 yeses, and they all gave me what I asked for." Well, what's that tell you? He didn't ask for enough money and didn't ask enough people for enough money, and he wasn't doing his research in terms of what we needed to do in terms of as a development professional. So I think the most valuable research we can do as officers is sit down and have a conversation with our prospects and our benefactors on what's meaningful for them. On December 20th, I sat down with one of our benefactors. Actually, it might be just a prospect. He might not be a benefactor yet, in New York. And we asked him, about 13 months ago, we asked him for $450,000, $150,000 a year for 3 years. And so we were having a great conversation, sit down with him, and we're getting towards the end of the meeting. I said, "So, Rick, do you remember the proposal where we asked you for a gift to focus?" He said, "Yeah, it's sitting right over there on my desk." He's a CEO of a publicly traded firm. And he said, "I think you guys made a huge mistake." I mean, really? And I was kind of new to this relationship. I met with him one other time, but I wasn't a part of the discovery, and I wasn't a part of the cultivation on the way to the solicitation. You guys asked me for way too much money. Oh, really? I said, "Tell me about that." He said, "Well, of course, it's no secret. You know, I'm the CEO of a publicly traded company, and I'm making $7 million a year. So that's a lot of money." He said, "However, of the $7 million, $3 million of it was paid in stock. And it's restricted stock, which I can't sell. And I have to pay taxes on it." So I'm starting to calculate in my head. I said, "So you paid probably about $3 million in taxes last year?" He said, "Yeah, I paid a little bit over $3 million in taxes last year." So you start to back that down. He got $3 million of stock. He paid $3 million in taxes. Now we're talking about $1 million left over for his disposable income and making his charitable contributions. He says, "The largest gift I make to any one organization is $40,000 a year. And I happen to be on their board." I'm like, whoa, we way overshot when we solicited this guy. And he said, "Now I'm interested on how you guys arrived at that number." So I start backpedaling, and I said, "Well, we didn't do our due diligence." I said, "From the science side of research, we felt like we probably made a good ask at $150,000 a year for 3 years. But from an art side of things, we made a huge mistake. If we would have had this conversation with you prior to making that solicitation, we wouldn't have asked for $150,000 a year for 3 years." So he was very forgiving. He has not made a gift yet, but he will. It's just going to take a little time. We have to rebound. But again, the role of research, I would, with all the officers that we work with at Focus, I know who's done their proper research in terms of asking the golden questions. And which brings me to another gentleman who our officer wanted to ask this guy for $1.5 million. I'm like, "Well, how'd you arrive at that number?" He said, "Well, I just think that's the amount we should be asking for." I'm like, "Well, did you go through any of the golden questions with him?" He's like, "No, I didn't go through any of the golden." I'm like, "Come on, we got to do our homework. Let's get this guy on a Zoom call and let's go through some of those questions." And so we did. Great conversation. We didn't make the same mistake with Mike that we made with Rick. And getting back to those 6 reasons: wrong organization, wrong project, wrong amount, wrong time, and never being asked. We knew we had a very good plan and a very good strategy and timeline coming out of that meeting with Mike as a result of asking the golden questions. And we certainly didn't make that mistake. So getting back to the 4 types of visits, and what are some of the questions that we can ask? How did you first hear about our organization? What are your hopes and dreams for the church? What are some of your fears? And this will start eliciting great responses. Are your kids or your grandkids practicing your faith? Are you involved in your parish or diocese? If so, in what ways? What is it about our organization that excites you? So, what inspires you to give? Who in your life has inspired you to be generous? How do you decide what organizations to get involved with? What was your largest or most meaningful gift? Why? What are the top 3 to 5 charities that you support? How much do you try to give away annually? Now, some of you may think, if you never exercise these muscles of asking benefactors these questions, you may think, wow, you're being really forward. Now, you got to remember, up there we have discovery, cultivation, solicitation, and stewardship. You don't have to be asking all these questions in the very first meeting. You don't have to be asking all these questions, but you can ask some of these questions over time. So some people may give you 1 meeting a year, and then you might just have to roll the dice a little bit. But hopefully you can get to some of these penetrating questions, what you might find where you can get them involved. And what do you look for in an organization that you give to? How and when do you make your giving decisions? And could you see our organization becoming a top charity for you? Why or why not? We have a gentleman by the name of Frank that we've been engaging since 2011, and he's made 1 or 2 gifts, but we asked this question back in 2011. We are not one of his top 3 yet, but I'm very hopeful because we're taking the long game here. We got a lot of work to do. I know we need to pay the bills, but we got to take a long game approach with some of our benefactors. And what would it take for our organization to get in your top 5? So, some other questions. You want to learn about their family. You want to get hopefully you can get in their life, and hopefully they can get into your life in terms of what's important to you, and hopefully what's important to you will become important to them, or vice versa. And then I'm always huge. I mean, we have one benefactor in New York that we were going through some of these golden questions, and we're talking about statistics within Focus and the impact that we have. And he's like, yeah, that's what I like about you guys. You guys track what you guys are what you're doing, what kind of impact you're having, and you're communicating them back to us. Now, another important part of the conversation we had with Bob was we were going through some of these golden questions, and we asked him, I said, well, where do you see yourself in terms of supporting Focus? And he said, well, I think I could probably give you guys about $100,000 a year. I'm like, okay. I said, if we put a proposal in front of you that might be $200,000 a year or $1 million over 5 years, is that something that you'd be willing to consider? He goes, yeah, I think I'd be willing to consider that. So again, it's getting back to those questions. You're really kind of asking your way to the gift, and it's not so much of a negotiation, but you're really trying to match where they are with what you need and where you are as an apostolate. So, plan giving. All of our officers are plan giving officers. Every one of them at Focus. Every one of you should be a plan giving officer as well. I know I know there's some technicians that know about CRUTs, Charitable Lead Trust, Charitable Remainder Trust, charitable gift annuities, all the technical stuff. That's great, but that's not going to help you negotiate or solicit a planned gift. Sometimes when you start working with attorneys or these experts, they'll talk the benefactor right out of the gift. It's just amazing. We had one gentleman, Dennis, who wanted to give us $2 million in a charitable gift annuity. And he actually wanted to do 4 charitable gift annuities for $500,000 each with different terms. And our technical expert was trying to talk him out of doing a charitable gift annuity. and do a charitable remainder trust. And for good reason, but it still wasn't what the benefactor wanted. And he just kept pushing up against the benefactor, pushing up against the benefactor. And the benefactor wasn't having anything to do with the charitable remainder trust. So what did we end up doing? We ended up doing 4 charitable gift annuities of $500,000 each. So again, but here's the important thing to get to that point. Have you ever considered charity in your estate plan? Yes, no, maybe. And then you can respond off of that. If it's yes, well, would you consider putting considering our apostolate as a part of one of your charities? Yes, no, maybe. Well, if it's no, well, what does the gentleman I referred to, Bob, who's giving us $200,000 a year right now for 5 years, he said, I need to know an organization for at least 10 years before I would consider leaving them as a part of our estate plan. Great, what are we going to do? 10 years. We're going to go back and talk to them about leaving a legacy commitment to focus. But again, all of our officers are having a conversation with the benefactors that they're working with at some point in time, because it's you know, there's a tremendous amount of wealth. I don't have to tell you guys this, but what's enough to give your kids to bless them, but not so much where you're going to ruin them? And is that $100,000? Is it $1 million? Is it $10 million? I don't know what the number is. It's different for everybody. But if you're a philanthropist and you're a highly committed Catholic, why wouldn't they want to leave money to charity, to some of our organizations and our apostolates? And they may not even thought about it, or they may think they're too young to think about it. But I don't care if you're 30, 50, 80, there's always a good time, because you should be thinking about your estate plan, and you should be considering charity as a part of your estate plan. So all of our officers are plan giving officers, in my opinion. And some of those questions. Oh, where do you vacation? And do you have a home there? I mean, there's been a handful of times where we've had benefactors that have had, a second or a third home that they were thinking about selling, or that they needed to get rid of, or whatever the case may be. Perfect opportunity for them to give it to your apostolate or your organization, because of the amount of good that they can do. They aren't going to, if the house is appreciated, they aren't going to incur any tax. If, for whatever reason, you might use it as a retreat center or an offsite center. I mean, depending on what your organizations decide to do with it, there's all sorts of options. But again, it's amazing what you can uncover just by asking questions and having a conversation with your benefactors. So, again, back to timing is one of the 6 reasons that people don't make a gift. What's the best time of year to have a conversation with you about making a gift to our organization? That's a simple enough question. For some people, it's January for their gifts in December. I think a lot of people, rightly or wrong, or more wrongly than rightly, think that people are going to be giving their gifts at the end of the year. A lot of major benefactors will make their gifts in January. A lot of people will be making their gifts in January, February, March, April, May, all throughout the course of the year. So you need to find out from the benefactor what works best for them. And then again, this is probably one of the best ways we can build our pool of major benefactors. And by the way, just full disclosure, this major gift fundraising is the most important thing you can do from a development perspective. Now, I know there's mail appeals, there's online giving, there's all the fancy stuff that probably you heard this week, but this is where the rubber meets the road. And Father John Flynn, who is a priest of the Omaha Archdiocese, no relation to me, former superintendent of the Catholic schools for the Omaha Archdiocese, we went through a conference similar to this. I went through a conference similar to this back in June 1994 and laid out a blueprint for a great development program. I'm like, Father, I'm one guy. There's no way I can throw a gala, do mail appeals, write a newsletter, get all the acknowledgments out, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to have time to raise any money. He said, all right, John, quickest way to a successful development program. Number one, a great case for support. Why is it important? Why do you exist? What kind of impact are you have? What's your vision to execute your mission? Great case for support. And second, a blue ribbon committee. People of great faith, influence, and affluence. If you do nothing else in development, if you learn only 2 things this week, develop a great case for support and have a blue ribbon committee. And then secondly, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth and use them in that proportion. If there's only 2 things you learn this week, those are the 2 things that you should learn. And not to minimize everything else that we're doing, but many of you might be a one-person shop, or you might be a part of a small shop. Not everybody has the resources to be able to execute everything else that we talked about in terms of development. But major gift fundraising is probably the absolute most important thing that we do. And referrals is an important part of that. Okay. So we're going to take a few minutes, and hopefully we can get 2 chairs in the middle of the room, because I don't think we have access to I don't know how the acoustics are in here, if they're really great or if they're poor, if people have a hard time hearing. I'm blessed at my age, I have a hard time hearing. And so hopefully Chuck and I can speak loud enough so we can all, everybody can hear us. But I want to sit down and have a conversation with Chuck about what he and Robin like to support. Chuck, what can you tell me about Focus?
I know about the missionaries on campus. I know you've got great span, grown a lot. I think we first heard about Focus, at least 15, 16, 17 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. We, being in Oklahoma City, we knew, I think the first time we heard a student from our parish was raising money to go on mission as a Focus missionary. And since then we've had a couple other acquaintances in our circle that have their kids as students have been going out as missionaries. So that's how we first heard about it. So we've known about Focus for a long time, mostly on from the campus side of things. And then of course, when our kids started going off to college, we were always kind of aware of whether or not there was a Focus team there, and prayerfully hoping that they'd get connected to the Focus group and stay connected with their faith through that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for supporting us over the years. What's your background? What's your story in terms of where'd you grow up and where'd you go to college and how'd you meet your wife?
Grew up here in Phoenix. Most of my growing up was here in Phoenix, just a few miles from here. Left Phoenix after graduating high school, went to the University of Oklahoma in Norman, and that's where I met my wife. We met
Boomer Sooner.
Thank you. And we met the first weekend after classes started freshman year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we met there at college. That's a lot of our shared experience. We got married, as soon as she finished it, just a semester after me, we got married right away, and been married for 30 years as of last month.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's awesome. My wife and I, we've been married for 30 years as of May of last year. So we're getting ready to celebrate our 31st anniversary.
Nice.
So did you go to OU to go to church and grow in your faith? Or did you go to, what inspired you to go to KU or OU?
Not KU.
Yeah, Rock Chalk.
Yeah. It was a scholarship. I had an academic scholarship to OU. I needed to finance my own education, and so I was purely following the money. I didn't know a soul at OU before I arrived on campus, and fell in with a group of folks, and that network is what led me to run into my wife at a bar.
That's awesome.
When we were 18, I don't know what we were doing at a bar at 18 years old, but
yeah, I met my wife at a bar too. It's a great place to meet women.
Good Catholic.
Yeah, exactly.
Good Catholic story.
Yeah, where you find 4 Catholics, you find a 5th. So, so tell me, were you pretty actively practicing Catholic when you went to OU, and what was the church like at OU? I mean, I'm not judging. I'm just asking.
No. It's a great question. I was not super active, at least not in my freshman year. I don't want to
No.
I don't want to ruin my talk that follows this.
Okay,
I'm not
all
going to go
right,
too
yeah.
far into depth.
Yeah.
But no, I wasn't terribly active. Not I never fell away from the church. I was always I was always a Catholic. I just wasn't going to church for a while there. The Newman's the Catholic parish, the university parish, not a Newman Center at OU, but the university parish there, frankly was not great at the time. It was a little what I call happy clappy there in the early '90s, and that's not my liturgical bend. So that kind of turned me off a little bit and probably inhibited me a little bit. Robin is Catholic though. She was probably in about the same place, but as we were dating and starting to get more, closer and closer to being on the, it was clear that we were going to be together and likely to get married afterwards. We started taking our faith more seriously. Started going to actually a parish across town from the university. Probably really got back to going to mass. Probably not sophomore year, but junior year, senior year, we were going pretty regularly, and that was kind of the start of me kind of getting more active in my faith as a college student.
That's awesome. And what about your kids? Yeah, I'm assuming you have children, is that right?
I do. 3 kids, 3 adult kids. My oldest is old enough that I got to do the math. She's 28, soon to be 28, and I've got a 25-year-old son and a 20-year-old daughter.
Where do they go to school?
My oldest went to OU. My middle child went to Oklahoma State, and then my daughter is currently a junior here at Arizona State.
Great.
Phoenix. Yep.
So where are they in their faith lives? Are they strong? Are they falling away? Or, I mean, are they all over the place?
All over the place. Our oldest daughter has always been pretty active in the faith and was as a student as well. She did kind of eventually kind of fall in with the focus group and get more involved with the university parish at OU, which is much better now than it was when we were students, by the way. My son is the laggard spiritually among the group. He's trying to figure a lot of things about life out, but his faith is not. I think that's probably his D priority right now.
Yeah.
And then my youngest daughter is, I think, somewhere in between. I think she's going to mass as far as what we hear. She tells us she is. But not super active. Not as active as our oldest daughter was.
Okay. So I'm assuming you and Robin are somewhat active in the church? I mean, in Oklahoma City, or are you guys not active or super active?
No, super active. Super
Yeah.
active.
Great. So what other organizations do you like to support? Primarily or Catholic church organizations, or secular organizations, community organizations? I mean, what inspires and drives your philanthropy?
No, primarily Catholic organizations. That's a the heart of our giving and kind of what we feel responsible for. We're responsible for supporting the church. So a lot at the parish level, a lot at the diocesan level. Our parish school is very important to us as well. Trying to build that up as well. Although I do give to some secular organizations, the United Way, that sort of thing.
Yeah. But they're probably more secondary than they are primary.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So what's inspired you to? Excuse me. What's inspired you and Robin to support Focus, make the gifts that you did make to Focus?
It was primarily, I think, the gifts that we made, probably all of them, were in support of individual missionaries. Okay, so and so's daughter is signing up to be a Focus missionary. My understanding of the model is your missionaries raise money to support themselves. Yep. At least that's the way it was conveyed to us, without doing a lot of back research. But a friend of our daughter was going off as a Focus missionary. Well, she's got to raise money from someone.
Right.
We agree with the mission. We can be the ones that can support this missionary as they're going off to do their work.
Great. Well, thank you for doing that. We appreciate it. Do you and Robin make your giving decisions together, or does she drive the giving, or who you're going to support and how much, or do you do that, or how's that work for the two of you?
It's mostly me. I run everything past her. I don't give anything away that she doesn't kind of
Sign
off on.
Yeah.
But no, I'm the one generally doing the work and evaluating whether this fits in with what we're trying to do, and but we have a conversation about every organization and whether we're gonna whether and how much and what we're gonna do. Uh, I don't want to say it's a rubber stamp, but she hasn't disagreed with much of what I've suggested.
That's great. So when do you like to make your giving decisions? What time of year? Is it all year round? Is it beginning of the year, end of the year? I mean, or are you strategic in your giving?
No, I would consider myself strategic in our giving. I would say at the beginning of the year, we kind of lay out priorities. Of course, we've got pledges and capital campaigns that we're kind of on the hook for already. So some of that gets locked in. I've got set amounts for, okay, where are we at on level for parish support, Bishop's Appeal, Catholic Charities. Those are kind of locked in. Beyond that, though, beyond that kind of what I consider that the base giving on in those fronts, or the pre-committed giving for a long-term pledge, capital campaign sort of gift. Then there's whatever else we can do beyond that. And this is the time of year that I'm evaluating that.
Mm-hmm.
My compensation, a big part of my compensation is in an annual bonus, which gets paid in March.
Okay.
So ahead of March, it's based on previous year's results. So now I know what the previous year's results were. I've got a good idea what my bonus is going to be in March. So January, February, I'm making plans. Okay, how does that money, the charitable portion of that, how does that get allocated out? It's really this time of year. I may not make the gift until later in the calendar year,
Right.
but I'm laying out the plan for the year right now. Now that because of the bonus component, my comp is pretty variable. So
Right.
I need to understand, okay, how much dry powder do I have
Yeah.
before I allocate it out over the course of the year.
Well, it sounds like you're not opposed to making multi-year commitments, though.
I hate them. Trying to get out from under the ones that I've already made.
Uh-huh. So do you think you'll make any multi-year commitments moving forward?
Well, I probably.
Yeah. Yeah. What could you see yourself or you and Robin supporting Focus at a higher level?
I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I think the decision to support those missionaries previously was really around, okay, if we don't do this, who else is going to, right?
Uh-huh.
Now I think we would do that sort of thing in the future, particularly
Right.
people we know, or if it's at a campus that, hey, we've got a student at University of X, let's make sure that their Focus team is supported and healthy and well funded. That's the sort of thing that we would probably be most open to, because that's part of the evaluation is, okay, are there other people that can fill this need, or does this really have to be us?
Uh-huh. Right.
So for those previous student missionaries, well, okay, the answer was yes. We kind of know their network. They don't have a whole lot of people that they can tap that can make a supporting gift. So yeah, this does have to be us if we want this to happen.
Right.
So when you talk about a major gift to Focus, I know you got a big network. I know you got an enormous database.
Yeah, we do.
I know that about you.
Yeah, thank you.
So when I think about that, there's a lot of people that maybe move to fill that need.
Uh-huh.
And maybe there are other areas that, okay, no, this needs to be Chuck and Robin because I don't speak about myself in the third person really, but
Right.
This needs to be us because there's no one else who can fill this need at this time for this person.
Right. Absolutely. Good. Thank you. What about? You're CEO of an energy company. Obviously, you've done very well.
Thank you.
What, in terms of estate planning? I mean, you're a young man, but have you and Robin given any thought to what your estate plan looks like, or is it just all going to the kids, or what?
No, we've got a estate plan in place. It's getting a little dated because we put it in place, 10 or 15 years ago when the kids were
Right.
were minors. That was our main focus was,
Yep.
how do the kids get taken care of if we, go down in a plane crash, what's gonna happen? Now that they're adults, it's, it's been on my list for the last couple of years to kind of, refresh the estate plan. So that's coming up. I'll stop procrastinating eventually. But yeah,
Do you have good attorneys that you're working with?
I do.
Good.
I do. I've got.
Not everybody does.
Yeah. No, I've got my financial guy, and he's hooked me up with local attorneys that he's worked with in the past.
Okay.
So that works pretty well. So yeah, we've included charitable giving in the plan. Again, the plan that we put in place 15 years ago. And there was some designated gifts for the parish and the school. X% of the estate, and then it worked. I think it was 2.5 to the parish, 2.5 to the school endowments, and then another 5% into a donor advised fund for the kids to kind of learn how to give money away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who inspired you in terms of being generous?
Well, certainly my parents, naturally.
Yeah.
They didn't have much, but they worked really hard. One story. So my parents went bankrupt when I was a child. I mean, bank took the house bankrupt. I mean, they were 6 kids trying to figure out where they were going to live, and mom had to go back to work or not go back to work. She got her first job in the 80s, and built a nice career over the next 20 years. So they didn't have much, but even at the low point of their finances, right after the bankruptcy, believe it or not, their parish published annually the donors and how much they gave.
Wow.
In the bulletin. Yeah.
Father Kiter.
Yeah. So to illustrate, they were now a two income household because they were both working.
Right.
My dad was a salesman. It was, he was on commissions. He was, he ate what he kills,
Right,
and he worked 7 days a week at that point because they were rebuilding. So, but he was one of the top 10 donors for their parish when they were trying to rebuild their finances.
After you just went bankrupt.
After he just went bankrupt. So doctors, lawyers. I mean, so we never had a conversation about tithing when I was growing up, but I have to assume
by
he
example.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was aware that they were giving and supporting, and that was part of their life as members of the parish. So that was really the inspiration. I think later on we had conversations when I became an adult of, the parish is their parish was having a capital campaign, and of course they had, a friend that was delegated to go make the ask and give them the proposal, and the conversation was, my eyes just about popped out of my head when I saw the number they were asking for, but we swallowed hard and agreed to it, and
wow.
They got their commitment paid off. So some of those examples, it really comes back to my parents.
That is so awesome. Awesome. Would you and Robin be open to entertaining a larger gift to focus? And if so, or what questions do you have of me, or what do you need from us that might inspire or motivate you to support Focus at a larger level?
Again, I think I need to understand the need a little bit better.
Okay.
Like I said before, I understand the need of a missionary that has an expectation they got to raise enough to support their mission year. That I can get my head around. But I get more disconnected when I think of Focus at a national level. I know you're growing. I know you're doing good work. And I like the work you're doing. But again, what's the need? Why do you need Robin and I to step up and do something? What's the need for that? And why us? Because like I said, I know you've got a lot of people that you can tap. What's the unique thing that we can provide to Focus?
Yeah.
And why is that the best use of the money? Because I know other organizations that we support, we know where we fit into the puzzle. This has to be, if we want this to happen, we've got to step up because maybe nobody else will.
Yeah.
And that's what I need to understand when I think of a bigger gift of Focus.
Absolutely. So this is where I would take more time and actually explain how their gift could be used. I'm not going to do that today for the sake of time. But also, this is where if I do have a limited amount of time, which I do, and I want to be respectful of his time, because I don't want to overstay my welcome, because I want him to be open to me coming back and talking to he and Robin in this case, because I can certainly understand that I might be able to convince Chuck, but I want Robin to be in there too in terms of the decision-making process. And then I also know that this is probably the right time of year to do that. And I'm getting to the point where I'm trying to close this up. But if you can see, we're getting answers to all the questions that we had up there. And really, I'm driving to the point where we're gonna make a solicitation quickly, probably in the next 30 days, let's say. But I'm gonna go back right here. So if you were to make a gift to Focus, what would be the type of gift that would say, it's be better than, I'm just gonna give you a gift because I like you, John Flynn, and I'm gonna send you away to support Focus? Or what's the type of gift that you'd like, you know what, I'm gonna make a gift that I'm really gonna keep my eye on you. And if you guys do well with our gift, I might make another gift. What's that type of gift for you?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So interesting, I want you to ask it to me again because I'm not sure I got it.
What's a type of gift where you're actually going to keep an eye on us and say, yeah, I like what Focus is doing. You used my gift well, to where I might actually consider supporting you beyond this, as opposed to, for Lucy and I could write you a check for $500 a day and send you away and feel like I did my part. So
I mean, if we start to get up to the $10,000 range, I'm going to probably have a few more questions around what we're doing and what you're doing with it.
Great.
That level for us that you described, $500 check, $1,000 check is
right.
That's that what do you call that? The going away gift?
Go away.
The go
gift.
away. Yeah,
right.
It's probably in that level. But when we start talking about more than that, and certainly as we get closer and closer to 10 grand, then we'd be keeping a closer eye on things and having some deeper conversations.
Great. Well, I don't want to discount the influence that Robin has. If you're open to it, I'd love to come back, whether we grab a meal or a cup of coffee, we meet at your home or your office. I'd love to come back and talk to you and Robin about potentially entertaining the idea of supporting Focus.
Yeah, no, I think that would make sense. I said I do a lot of the work and run it past Robin. The flip side of that is if there's anything she wants to do, it gets done because because there are so few things that she takes that level of interest in. That's something if Robin wants to do it, we're going to do it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time today, Chuck. Thank you.
No, it was good. It was a pleasure.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck. That was awesome. I love it. So really, those are some of the questions that you're asking, and hopefully Chuck and Robin will become major benefactors of support at some point in the future. In all seriousness, and I mean, we have to articulate the case and communicate the vision on why it's important for Chuck and Robin to be a part of Focus and to help support Focus. And again, those are the questions that, and we can send you all these and you can have them at your hand, or at the ready. I want to encourage you to ask your way to the gift because again, 2 ears and 1 mouth. And when you're having those conversations, that was an enjoyable conversation for me. I think it was probably an enjoyable conversation for Chuck. And those are enjoyable conversations because we're meeting people of great faith, influence, and affluence. And they love when they're being asked those questions because they know that we're taking this seriously in terms of trying to engage them and elicit their support. So again, thank you guys for everything. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. God bless.